A billion people in rural India are about to get their first smartphone, and AI companies are betting their future on it. This isn't hype. This is actually reshaping how the world builds AI, and almost nobody is talking about it. Let me explain what's happening, because it's genuinely wild. For the last decade, AI development has been a Western game. You think of OpenAI, Google, Meta, all based in the US and Europe, all building products for English speakers with fast internet and disposable income. But there's a massive problem with that model. The world doesn't work that way. About 4 billion people live in rural or semi-rural areas with spotty connectivity, older phones, and languages that aren't English. They're not some niche market. They're the majority of humanity. Rural India is the canary in the coal mine for this problem. India has 1.4 billion people, and about 900 million of them live outside major cities. Most of them have never owned a smartphone. But that's changing fast. Mobile penetration in rural India is skyrocketing. We're talking about a wave of first-time smartphone users that dwarfs anything we've seen before. And here's the thing. These users can't use the AI tools we're all obsessed with. ChatGPT, too slow on a 4G connection. Fancy image generators? Won't load on a 3-year-old Android with 2 gigabytes of RAM. The latest language models? They need way too much processing power. So either these billion people get left behind, or AI companies figure out how to build differently. They're choosing to build differently. And that's where it gets interesting. Companies like Google, Meta, and local Indian startups are racing to create AI that works on cheap phones with bad internet. Not the fancy kind of AI you read about. The practical kind. Think offline language models that fit in 100 megabytes instead of 100 gigabytes. AI that understands Hinglish, that mix of Hindi and English that actual people speak. AI that works on 2G networks in villages where 4G is still a luxury. Google's doing this through something called TensorFlow Lite. It's basically a toolkit that lets developers shrink AI models down to phone-friendly sizes. They've been testing it in rural India for years. Meta is pushing something similar. And Indian startups like Jio are building entire ecosystems around affordable AI. But here's what's wild. These constraints are actually forcing innovation. When you can't throw infinite computing power at a problem, you have to get clever. You have to build smarter, more efficient models. And it turns out those smarter models often work better than the bloated versions, even for people with fancy phones. So what does this look like in practice? Imagine you're a farmer in Maharashtra with a basic smartphone and spotty internet. You want to know why your crops are failing. Instead of uploading photos to the cloud and waiting for a response, you open an app that runs AI locally on your phone. It analyzes the image, gives you pest identification and treatment advice in Hindi, all within seconds, all without needing to upload anything. That's not science fiction. That's happening right now. Or imagine you're a small business owner who doesn't speak English and wants to understand your customer feedback. You use an AI tool that understands your local language, runs on your phone, and gives you insights without sending your data anywhere. Again, this is real. The second big shift is language. English has dominated AI development because most of the research and training data was in English. But rural India speaks Hindi, Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, Marathi, dozens of languages. AI companies are now frantically training models in Indian languages, not as an afterthought, but as a core feature. Google's invested heavily in this. They've released models that understand and generate Hindi, Tamil, and other Indian languages at a level that would have been impossible 5 years ago. But the real innovation is that they're doing it with limited data. They're learning to build effective language AI without needing massive data sets in every language. That's a skill that applies everywhere, not just India. Here's the third thing that's changing, the business model. Smartphones in rural India cost $100 to $300, not $1,000. Data plans are expensive relative to income. So free apps with ads don't work the same way. Developers are experimenting with different models, subscription services, one-time purchases, freemium tiers that work on slow networks. It's forcing the entire industry to think about accessibility and affordability in ways they haven't before. And because India's market is so huge and growing so fast, whatever works there often becomes the global standard. If you build AI that works offline, that understands multiple languages, that's efficient enough for old phones. You've basically built AI that works for everyone. That's the real prize. Now, here's why this matters beyond just India. This is a glimpse of how AI is going to evolve globally. The next billion users are going to be in emerging markets with constraints similar to rural India. If AI companies want to actually reach those markets, not just talk about it, but actually build products they can use, they have to solve these problems. And solving them here means solving them for the world. It also means the power structure around AI is shifting. For the last decade, Western companies controlled AI development because they had the data, the computing power, and the talent. But India has something else, a massive market that forces you to innovate on efficiency and accessibility. That's leverage. It's already pushing companies to build differently, and it's creating opportunities for local Indian companies to lead in categories where they understand the market better than outsiders. There's also a darker side dimension. As rural India comes online, there's a real risk of misinformation, deepfakes, and AI-generated spam targeting less tech-savvy users. Companies are aware of this, but it's a real problem they're going to have to solve. The same efficiency that makes AI work offline also makes it easier to spread false information. That's not something anyone's celebrating, but it's part of the picture. The last thing worth understanding is that this boom is happening incredibly fast. We're not talking about a slow rollout over the next decade. We're talking about hundreds of millions of people getting smartphones in the next 2 to 3 years. That's a scale of change that's going to reshape what AI products look like, what features matter, and what companies win. So here's the takeaway. Rural India isn't just a market. It's a testing ground for the future of AI. The companies that figure out how to build products that work for a farmer in a village with a basic phone and spotty internet are the ones that are going to dominate the next phase of AI. And the innovations that come out of that are going to make AI better for everyone. If you want to actually keep up with how AI is changing the world, not just the hype, but the real shifts, subscribe. I break down stories like this every few days, and this one's just the beginning.